You are now listening to the smooth sensations and high vibrations of Alex, host of the best relationship channel on YouTube. Alex, drop them gems on it.
What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Alex. Shout out to the Elite Fleet. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can become a member of the Elite Fleet, where we give the best dating advice on YouTube because it's raw and unfiltered, therefore unpopular. Either way, we are here to react to this viral TikTok video of this young Gen Zer who don't get any women talking about how the age of consent should be raised to 25. I know some of y'all like, well, why are you calling him a weird young Gen Zer who doesn't get any women? Well, quite simply because of this. Bro, when I was in college, listen, I know like Gen Z's getting cooked by older men. Just because the way they react to older men. Like when I was in college, when I was this age, bro, I'm not saying it's all y'all Gen Z, but just listen to me. Because a lot of y'all is weirdos. It's not all y'all, I get it. But a lot of y'all can't get no chicks, right? It's cool, like we here to help. I get it. But when I was under the age of 25, bro, when I was in college, the last thing I was worried about was the age of consent. Do you know why the last thing I was worried about was the age of consent? If you said because you were getting women, ding, 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 you're right. Because I didn't have any problem getting women my age, I wasn't really worried about who was talking to someone older. Because the reality is, listen, when I was in high school, dudes used to pull up in their upper 20s, mid 20s, picking girls up. So, of course there were some girls in college who were talking to sugar daddies or older men, but the difference was they would still call on us because we was young, their age, hip, had the stamina. That was just the money. And most of them didn't even do that. Whereas with this generation, most younger women are with older men, period. Even if the older man don't got no money like that. And he not necessarily a sugar daddy. It's a way bigger problem in their generation than it was in mine. In generations before. There have always been sugar daddy relationships, right? And women have always dated older men. But it never really stopped you from competing. Nowadays, a lot of Gen Z dudes just can't compete at all. Like they're not looked at as the cool dudes. They don't got the bread. Like they don't really got anything with the ladies working in their favor. Not all. Don't start crying in my comments. I'm just being honest. So as a result of that, you get videos like this where they start talking about the age of consent should be 25 because they just want to keep they want to keep us in the 30s, dudes in the 40s, dudes in the 50s up off their chicks. That's what that's really about. Right? Like I said, I would never make this video at this age because I wasn't having any problem with women my age at this age. So this is how I know this is a young Gen Z dork. Just to answer that question before it starts. Who doesn't get women? Now with that being said, let's get into our actual reaction.
The age of consent should be 25 because 18 is not a reasonable age for pretty much anything. You're not biologically done. You're not neurologically done. Well, no, why is 18? Because that's the age that somebody decided up there. They said, oh, I have an idea. Let's make sure they're responsible for done things. Because biologically, a person can be capable of reproduction.
Let's stop right there. Because this is the prime example of someone who thinks they're smart, but they're really dumb, and they say things that sound smart to dumb people. And people get offended when I say that, but just hear me out on why I'm saying it. He said somebody just made 18 up as the lawmaker's age to decide, okay, it's okay to hold you responsible. So what? And what like so what your argument is basically that you shouldn't be responsible for anything until you're 25. Because this is the problem with the age of consent argument, right? This is why it's a dumb argument. Because when you say the age of consent should be 25, does that mean you should have to be 25 before you can rent your own apartment, before you can sign your own mortgage, before you can get your own car loan, before you can take hundreds of thousands of dollars out in student loans? That if you don't get a job in your field, you're cooked off of just your debt alone. That you can take, tens of thousands out in credit card debt, tens of thousands out in car debt, hundreds of thousands in house debt. You understand what I'm saying to you? Are you going to take all these things away and say that they should all go to 25? Because if you're not, and you're just talking about specifically sex, then the entire argument falls on its face. If you're going to use the flawed logic of the study that says the brain doesn't fully develop until 25, then you have to also bring in the full context that they didn't continue to study past age 25. The reality is the brain never really stops developing. It just slows down its ability to be able to retain new information. As you get older, you can still learn. Older people, like, you have generations of people in their 90s right now, 80s, who can work a smartphone, right? It was nowhere near nothing close to that when they was our age. But they can work the phone. Then you got other ones who can't work the phone at all, right? So it's not like you can't adapt. You don't necessarily stop learning. The brain never stops developing unless you have some type of a disease. It just becomes harder to retain new information. I'm bringing that up just to say 25 isn't when your brain's done developing. It's just when that study decided to end. Your brain's never done developing. So when the argument becomes solely about sex and you don't care about the hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, which is going to make this person a debt slave for their entire life, absolutely no real freedom, slave to the wages, slave to their jobs, you don't care about their ability to get themselves into all that debt and financial turmoil at 18, but you care about who they sleeping with from 18 to 25. You don't care about their financial health from 18 to 25. You just care about who they're sleeping with. That's the problem with this argument. As soon as the argument becomes just about sex, essentially, it lets me know that this is a person who's upset because the women that they want keep being with older men. But let's continue.
A full decade before they turn 18. So if we're following pure biology, the number would be horrifyingly lower. But we're not, because we rightfully understand the ability to create a baby has zero to do with the psychological, emotional, and neurological capacity to navigate the complex, potentially devastating power dynamics of intimacy with another person. We've understood that. We've grasped it. The law isn't marking a biological milestone. 25 would be a biological milestone because that part, your brain is pretty much developed around there. And most people feel as though my life is falling apart at 25 because they
Bro said your brain is mostly developed around there. So you essentially just admitted that your brain's still not undeveloped. So when you can move the age of consent to 30. And I just want to bring up one more point real quick while he just babbles. Because this is basically a male version of Bimbo Babble. He's not saying anything. His argument doesn't make sense because he hasn't even acknowledged all the other trouble you can get yourself into from 18 to 25. He only wants to talk about sex. Like, y'all get what I'm saying? It's like, so his sole reason for making this video isn't that, well, you shouldn't allow undeveloped young adults to go out here and get in the hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, which will have way more impact on their life than who they decide to sleep with. Now, you just want to focus on who they decide to sleep with. You're masking it with all that other talk. Like, that's literally all you're doing.
Strange thing in their brain. Oh, I should get married. I should have kids. I should have a full career by now. You don't need to do that much by 25. There is no full guide for discovering how to be an adult.
I completely disagree. That's one of the problems with the younger generation. When I was young, not only was I not worried about older men taking my women because I realized we was a lot more masculine than a lot of y'all are. It's not all of y'all, but a lot of y'all dudes is weirdos like this cat right here. And I'm saying that to say, he's essentially arguing that you shouldn't be responsible at all until you're 25. But so I was wondering if he's going to make that argument. It seems to me that he is. And here's the problem with that argument. Number one, 18 isn't young. Let me explain. Alex, what are you saying? Listen. Back in the colonial days, for example, people used to get married at like 12, 13. Back in the ancient Rome, ancient Egypt days, people used to get married at like 12, 13, have a house, have crops to tend to, a job. There was a caste system, so you already knew if you was going to be a peasant, if you was going to be middle class, royalty, whatever you was going to be. And you started working on that as soon as you basically became a teenager. Then they decided, well, you weren't fully developed yet until like 18. Now you're saying it should be 25. Here's my problem. Me sitting here as a millennial, I'm watching people slowly push back when you should have your life together. Here's the problem with that. We're seeing the repercussions now of women waiting until they were in their 30s to try to get in a relationship versus back in the days when they used to do that in their teens and their 20s. The repercussion is you have a bunch of people out here getting fertility treatments because it's geriatric. That's not everybody, but that's a lot of people. This is a problem a lot of them would have been having if they would have focused on finding their partner in their 20s, but we don't do that no more. So why are you saying that, Alex? Because when you say raise the age of consent in general to age 25, you're essentially saying that these kids are going to be their parents' responsibility for 25 years. When I was 18, I was ready to go out and be on my own. It wasn't even about the ability to consent to sex. Again, this is not something I thought about. I was just like, I'm going to go to school outside of my state. I'm about to get a job, put some money in my pocket. Like, I'm about to be independent. That's what we was about when I was coming up. Like, y'all new dudes, part of what makes y'all weird, and somebody timestamp this for me, because this is a gem. Part of what make this argument and some of y'all Gen Z men weird is y'all almost act like women to me. Like, you want to be with your parents until 25. And listen, I know y'all gonna make that Mexican family, we all stayed in one house and stacked our bread, blah, blah, blah argument. But in real life, that doesn't work. In real life, I know people whose parents allowed them to stay with them until they're like 25, sometimes 30. And it takes them a lot longer to get their life together. It doesn't help them get their life together faster. You know what they do? They say, I have extra money because I'm living with my parents and I'm barely paying for anything. I'm going to spend it on women, or I'm going to spend it on vacations, or I'm going to spend it on clothes. I'm going to spend it on something that's not really relevant to my long-term life. So when I do finally decide to move out after being fully comfortable at my parents' house for at least 5 to 10 years of my adult life, now I'm going to just get out here and figure out how to pay rent and be a real adult and find someone to marry and have kids with. It's not really working that way. This is why the marriage rate is down. This is why the childbirth rate is down. So y'all Gen Zers don't seem to have an issue basically with completely being not responsible. Like, you don't care if you can't vote. So many things you can't do because you know I don't have to be responsible if the age of consent moves back to 25. You basically want more time to, as he state, get your life together because not everyone has it together by 25. Listen, newsflash, and this is going to be a rough gym. If you don't have it together by 25, you're probably not going to get it together. Let it breathe, run it back. If you don't have, and I'm not saying you should be rich. I'm just saying, in my opinion, if by 25, you're not even able to at least pay rent, pay a car note, get a decent job, you know what I mean? Sustain a decent relationship. Maybe get married. Like I told y'all, when I do videography at weddings, most of those couples are in their early 20s. They're not in their late 20s. Most of those white and Indian couples that hire me are in their early 20s, right? So you should be able to sustain, if not a marriage, at least a stable relationship. Hold down a job. Get yourself a place. You know, maybe you get an entry mortgage at the condo or something, but get yourself a place at least. Pay some rent. You get what I'm saying? I don't even care if you got a roommate. I'm fine if you have a roommate. My point is, pay some rent. You should be able to pay some rent. Keep a car around. If you can do that by 25, you're on the right path to me. If you can't do that by 25, I'm worried about you. These Gen Z kids is completely fine staying at home until 25. And y'all, listen to that excuse that they're saving money. They're not. They're spending more money because they live at home. That's what's happening most of the time. So my thing is, all this delayed adulthood, delayed development, you know, like, yes, the life expectancy is longer nowadays, but you're still getting old. Like I said, geriatric pregnancies is still a thing. All this stuff is still real. So you keep pushing everything back. I'm going to wait to have a family. I'm going to wait to have the kids. I'm going to live my life first instead of living my life after. People used to raise families, right? And then live their life after. You know, after they raise their kids, they go travel. They buy vacation homes. That's where that old retire in Arizona, retire in Florida, somewhere where it's sunny. Go enjoy the rest of your years. You raised your kids, you did your jobs. Nowadays, things is bad where people want to live their life and be adults and then shove kids into their middle ages. Now, listen, I don't have a problem with getting your life together before you have kids. I have a problem with getting your life together before you get married. I think you should build your life with your partner, ideally. I understand it's not everyone's path, but that should be the ideal path. Because what happens when you have, right, a woman who bought a house, she's got car payments, she's got hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan debt, and she gets with this other dude. And let's just say in that scenario, you know, I could save this for another video, but I'm just going to slightly jump into this really quick because I want y'all to understand the complexities of relationships and the reason why the best ones start young. Because she goes out here and builds her life. Like, so she's got the BMW or the Mercedes. She's got a house. She's got a nice wardrobe with name brand clothes. She's got credit card debt. She's got bills. She's got mortgages, but she's paying them. But she has a whole life is my point. And she meets this guy. And this guy has a whole life. Who's giving up their life? When you build a life together, that's easy because you built the life together. But when you wait until your 30s, your mid-30s, like people are doing, and if you raise the age of consent, it's probably going to be the mid-40s instead, right? when you do this, now people go out here, they build whole lives, and they try to insert person into their life. And that causes its own set of complications because you don't have time. What happens is you start dating seriously in your late to mid, you get early, mid, late 30s. You start getting desperate because you know deep down, whether you want to admit it or not. Like I'm gonna say this, people gonna get mad at me for saying it because I'm just discussing it, but it's a real thing. People have fertility problems in their 30s. Now, if you black and Hispanic, it's not nearly as bad as if you white or Asian, but it still happens. So I'm saying that to say, you push it back, you cause all these other problems. You've both built lives. Certain people are gonna have to give up certain stuff, or you're gonna mesh all this stuff together, right? And nobody's gonna give up anything. But does it really mesh? Do y'all personal lives really mesh? Do y'all bills really mesh? Is it balanced? Can you pay all this debt for her? Is that the expectation? Like, it's so much that goes into it that doesn't go into it if you get married young. If you get married out of college, both of y'all start with a clean slate. All you got is your student loan debt. If you have any, might have scholarship. But when you come together in your 30s, some people got kids. Both of y'all got kids. Both of y'all got all this debt. Both of y'all got all these properties. Y'all rent this place. You rent this place. You got this house. She got that house. Is the area okay? All these other things come into play. Let's go ahead and wrap this video up.
No biological benchmark for your prefrontal cortex for getting fully developed, that's 25. Neurologically, at 18, you're a work in progress. You are all gas and faulty brakes. That's all you are. The law choosing 18 was because they needed to decide an age to hold people accountable. You can vote, you can sign contracts, but you can't drink and you can't smoke. That's what you can't do. That's what's happening. We know you're not fully cooked.
But that's my thing. That's what's supposed to be happening. Like, this is what I don't get about this argument. Because I'm like, if you're going to make this argument, if it's not just about sex, then you're making an argument that everything should be 25. So are you saying people shouldn't be able to vote until they're 25? Like, do you understand how deep that rabbit hole goes? And if you do and you're okay with that, I'm looking at you as a man that's weird. How can you be okay with I'm not going to be able to vote? I'm not going to be able to drive. I'm not going to be able to drink. I'm not going to be able to rent. I'm not going to be able to... How can you be okay with all this shit? I'm not going to be able to get my own loan. I'm not going to be able to do anything until I'm 25 years old. That's what we're pushing the average age of a functional adult back to. And it's men pushing this movement is insane to me. But I said we're going to wrap this up, so let's wrap this up.
You are for the system to function. That's all it is. There's no biology behind that in any capacity. There is no difference. Some people, some guys, will wait for that 1 minute. They'll be like, 17, 18. Oh boy. So you were attracted to them at 17 and you were just waiting for the law? Is what was going on? That's a little...
And that's a stupid argument too. If you're attracted to someone, you're attracted to them. That's a dumbass argument. Like, because you've seen this woman and she's 18, you find her attractive. Does that mean she was attractive to you at 16? And she's attracted to you. So here's my thing. When he found her, she wasn't underage. So when you start to get into these what ifs, first of all, what's the age gap between them, right? Because if a senior finds a freshman attractive, is that weird? If the 18-year-old senior finds the 14, 13-year-old freshman attractive, or is that okay? In my head, right? They both go to high school. And other people said it might be different, but where are we really drawing that line? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about? Because you could make that same argument in reverse. If she found him attractive at 35, she probably would have found him attractive at 25, which means she probably would have found him attractive at 15. She just likes the person. Like, y'all work too hard to make people PDF files nowadays. It's weird.
Nothing's happened realistically. It's so strange. It is so strange. It's dumb. It's genuinely dumb.
So he said a bunch of nothing, basically. And that's his name, so that way he can never be like, oh, you didn't say my name, you just react to the video. But he said a bunch of nothing, basically. At the end of the day, the root of his issue, which is why he said age of consent, the root of his issue is he doesn't want older men talking to younger women. This is the issue that only a younger man who doesn't get women would have. All the rest of that is nothing but bimbo babbling, the male version of a bimbo babble. He's just running his mouth. That's what we say over here in the Elite Fleet. Bimbo babble. That's what he's doing. He's running his mouth. He's just babbling about nothing. He's not talking about nothing. At the end of the day, I don't believe... You know what? I cracked my jokes on Gen Z, right? I cracked my jokes on Gen Z tonight. But the best gems come for those who stay to the end. I don't believe most Gen Z feels this way. I don't believe, especially the women. I know for a fact the women don't agree with this shit. But I don't believe most Gen Z feels this way. I don't think most of Gen Z would want to not be an adult in any way until they're 25. I don't believe any of them feel like that. Now, I do believe that there are some men who wish that the age of consent was 25, so they didn't have to compete with older men. But I would be like, your youth is supposed to be your tool. Use it. But y'all so weird. It's like, I kind of get why a lot of women don't like younger men, honestly. Not all y'all, like I said, but I just kind of get it. Y'all weird, y'all skittish, y'all act like them, you paint your nails too. Like, it's just a lot going on there. Like, I can make this another video. Because, like I said, it's not all y'all. But it's just like, I'm not even joking. Like, when I was that age, last thing I was worried about was older men. Like, I didn't have no problem with women my age. So I wasn't worried about stopping older men from talking to them. It was what it was. Like I said, even in high school it was happening, but it was what it was. It wasn't stopping my motion, so I wasn't worried about it. So that's the route I suggest y'all take. I'm Alex, and I am out. Peace.